For years now, DC has been the lesser of the two superhero cinematic universes, with Marvel completely dominating from 2008 to 2020, and despite a few one-off successes, DC really just couldn't compete with the powerhouse that was the MCU. However, it's no secret that the quality of Marvel movies has fallen off a cliff post-Avengers Endgame, showing the first chink in the armor of Marvel that DC could exploit. Except, DC continued to churn out lackluster garbage that was somehow even worse than the projects that Marvel were releasing, and while DC had success with the Batman, it was still not a part of their DCEU, so it became obvious that DC needed a rebrand and had to find a way to exploit the recent failures of the MCU, which is what led them to turning to James Gunn to help turn the DCEU into the DCU, and at first it seemed like an even worse disaster, with fans being angry over the way they did Henry Cavill undeservingly dirty, and then Blue Beetle struggled to make a profit at the box office. But then, all eyes turned to Superman, and people were wondering if this could be the movie to reshape the DCU and finally get them some success. And well, now that the trailer has been released, we can finally see the ways that DC plans to exploit the MCU and become the new face of superhero cinema. And so in this video, we'll cover the 4 ways that DC are destroying the MCU. 1. Listening to the fans. If there is one thing that Marvel has done wrong in recent years, is create projects that are so out of touch with what the fans want. Agatha is a show that wasn't the worst, but it wasn't something that anyone really asked for, and that's why no one ended up watching it and it had such terrible ratings. And then you have She-Hulk, which was a show that didn't resonate one bit with the demographic of Marvel fans. And then they turned Thor into a blabbering moron, which was yet another time that they showed they were completely out of touch with what the fan base wanted. And despite fans constantly telling them what they want, Marvel continued to ignore them. However, James Gunn has definitely seen that, and has chosen to make Superman a movie made by comic book fans, for comic book fans, and marketed through comic book fans. Because from the look, to the story, to the characters, to the marketing, everything about this Superman trailer screams comic book. In an era where studios are ashamed to lean into comic book style movies because it may not resonate with the casual viewer, a movie like Superman is saying to hell with the casual viewer, all we need is comic book fans to enjoy it, and the movie is going to make hundreds of millions of dollars regardless, and also ensure more viewers to get excited for the next DCU movies to come as well. And while some people are still not quite sold on the color grading and the look, and understandably so because it is jarring at first, if James Gunn can make this work for the story, I think we may have a new era of superhero movies upon us, and an era where DC is going to dominate over the MCU, who have resorted to cheap gimmicks and legacy character returns to try and gain back interest for their universe, as opposed to being focused on just making a good movie. And so while yes, it was a big concern that DC got rid of Henry Cavill, and most fans would still like to see Henry Cavill as Superman, it has shown that DC are more focused on making a good movie as opposed to just bringing back an actor that all the fans like. They are more focused on the story and reshaping the overall universe as opposed to trying to find the easiest way to gain back interest, which is what Marvel are sadly doing. Number 2. The marketing. Marvel movie marketing all just feels the same at this point. It's the same style of press junkets, the same style of screening, and the same premiere look. They haven't engaged the average comic fan the way that they should and could through social media, whereas Superman has chosen to invite all the top podcasts, superhero comic influencers, and content creators to their set, to their screenings, and they are choosing to speak directly to their fan base, as opposed to just turning to the same boring media outlets that people are just sick of because it doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel like a true connection, it feels fabricated, and it feels forced. And this sense of community that James Gunn's Superman is building is what comic book stories thrive off. The whole idea of the superhero genre is to cultivate a community, a fandom, a family of superhero lovers. And movies from Marvel that leaned into that community feel thrived for a reason, but it seems only DC at the moment are looking to use that to its full effect in every single project. Number 3. The timing. Marvel are entering a quiet period through 2025 where they are looking to cut back on the amount of projects they have after feeling as though they oversaturated their own market in recent years. And while that is a good idea for Marvel, who definitely need to take time out and figure out how to rebrand themselves, they're still entering a quiet period at the exact time that DC are about to enter their full stride. Because with the launch of the fresh new DCU just around the corner, they are in prime position to capitalize on a lack of Marvel content and dominate the superhero movie headlines over the course of the next year or two, which is something they haven't quite done in recent years, if not ever. But now that the conditions are absolutely perfect for DC to exploit Marvel and steal as many fans as possible, or really just win over the fans who have become tired of Marvel as well, I really do think we're going to see a lot of DC projects making a huge profit at the box office because they just don't have as much competition, and especially if the movies are good, they're going to drown out any competition that Marvel could try and put up. And the fourth and last reason, the range of content. Because what tired many out about the MCU was it was all starting to feel the same. The multiverse made everything feel pointless, and there was a real lack of stakes in all the stories. Whereas with DC, what seemed like a mistake at first to not bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU has actually turned into a massive blessing. Because yes, they will have their bright and colourful and comic book fan service universe, but they will also have a darker, more nuanced and gritty universe with the Penguin and the next Batman projects. And this almost acts as a palate cleanser for their other works too, and will allow the fanbase to not grow as tired of the DCU, because releasing 2 DCU projects and then a Batman-verse project in the same year won't fatigue fans the way that 3 DCU projects in 1 year might. Not to mention that just every now and then getting something that isn't tied to the DCU, that has a different feel, and allows them to explore other avenues and other options, will just keep the overall DC franchise fresh, and will just keep fans engaged in a way that they can't be if it's all tied to the one universe. And it also gives them an opportunity to explore with television too, in a way that doesn't feel cheap and tacky like it does with Marvel at this point. And so all in all, things look great for DC right now, and only time will tell if the Superman movie is good or not, but for now they are definitely in a great position to have a phenomenal 2025. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below in the comments. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always,
good afternoon, good evening, and good night.